In this article, we shall discuss a giant in the political world, a political icon who is widely regarded as one of the most significant political leaders of the 20th century. I am talking about none other than Winston Churchill, the man who led the United Kingdom during the Second World War. Winston Churchill was a prominent British statesman and leader who is best known for his role as Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during World War II. He was born on November 30, 1874, in Blenheim Palace, England, and died on January 24, 1965. Churchill had a long and distinguished political career, serving in various government positions over several decades. Churchill became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in May 1940, during a critical period in World War II. He is widely celebrated for his resolute leadership and powerful oratory during the war, providing unwavering support to the British people and the Allied forces. His speeches, such as the famous "We Shall Fight on the Beaches" address, inspired and rallied the nation during the darkest days of the conflict. Often referred to as the British Bulldog for his tenacity and determination in the face of adversity, he is remembered as one of the 20th century's greatest leaders. His speeches, writings, and leadership during a critical period in history continue to be studied and celebrated. Churchill's legacy and impact on world history extend beyond his wartime leadership, as he made significant contributions to British politics and international relations throughout his career. Churchill's early life was marked by privilege and a strong family pedigree. He was born on November 30, 1874, at Blenheim Palace in Woodstock, Oxfordshire, England. He was the son of Lord Randolph Churchill, a prominent conservative politician, and Jenny Jerome, an American socialite who came from a wealthy and politically connected American family. Growing up in this environment exposed him to political discussions and provided valuable connections. As a child, Churchill accompanied his father to political events and rallies, which gave him an early introduction to the world of British politics. He developed an interest in political affairs from a young age. Churchill's education was a mix of formal schooling and private tutoring. He attended several schools during his early years, including Harrow School, where he struggled academically but showed an early interest in military matters. He later attended the Royal Military Academy Sandhurst and graduated as an officer in the British Army. After completing his training at Sandhurst, Churchill was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars. He saw military action in various parts of the British Empire, including India, Sudan, and South Africa. His early military service, including his time as a cavalry officer in the British Army and his participation in various military campaigns, gave him valuable experiences and insights into leadership, discipline, and the practical aspects of government and conflict. These experiences would shape his understanding of geopolitics and warfare. Winston Churchill developed an interest in writing during his early years. He worked as a war correspondent and wrote books about his experiences in the various military campaigns he participated in as well as political matters. His writings helped establish his reputation as a journalist, author, and public intellectual. Churchill benefited from the mentorship of more experienced politicians, including his father and some of the leading figures in the Conservative Party. He learned the art of political maneuvering and negotiation from these individuals. Churchill's extensive travels around the British Empire and the world, including visits to India, South Africa, and North America, exposed him to different cultures and geopolitical realities. These experiences influenced his understanding of global affairs. Throughout his life, Winston Churchill was a voracious reader and independent student. He devoured books on history, politics, and military strategy, expanding his knowledge and intellectual capabilities. Churchill's early life laid the foundation for his later career as a statesman and leader. His experiences in the military, his family background, and his early forays into writing and politics all played a significant role in shaping his character and prepared him for the challenges he would face during World War II and beyond. Churchill's military career was marked by a combination of service in various conflicts and campaigns, as well as some notable achievements and controversies. His military career began in the late 19th century when he was commissioned as a second lieutenant in the 4th Queen's Own Hussars in 1895. He saw service in India and in the Sudan, where he participated in the Battle of Omdurman in 1898. One of the most famous and controversial episodes of Churchill's military career was his involvement in the Second Boer War, 1899–1902, in South Africa. He served as a war correspondent for the Morning Post and was captured by the Boers. After his escape, he rejoined the British Army as an officer and saw combat in various engagements. His experiences in the Boer War, and his escape from captivity, contributed to his reputation and early fame. After the Boer War, Churchill returned to Britain and was elected as the Member of Parliament, MP, for Oldham in 1900. This marked the beginning of his political career. During World War I, Winston Churchill held the position of First Lord of the Admiralty from 1911 to 1915. In this role, he was responsible for the Royal Navy, and he was involved in planning and executing naval operations. His advocacy for the disastrous Gallipoli campaign led to his resignation from the government, and he returned to military service as a battalion commander on the Western Front in France. He served with distinction and was involved in various battles, earning respect from the soldiers under his command. After World War I, Churchill continued his involvement with the military, but his career focused more on his political roles. He was promoted to the rank of major and later became an honorary colonel in the Territorial Army. Churchill's military career was characterized by a combination of active service, both in combat and in leadership roles, and his work as a war correspondent. His experiences in various military campaigns and conflicts, along with his knowledge of military matters, proved invaluable during World War II when he led Britain through one of its most challenging periods. His military service and leadership continue to be a significant aspect of his historical legacy. Churchill's early political career was marked by his transition from a young, ambitious politician to a member of various political parties, as well as his rise through the ranks of government. Winston Churchill began his political career in the late 19th century. He was elected as the Member of Parliament, MP, for Oldham in 1900 as a Conservative, representing a constituency in the north of England. This marked the beginning of his parliamentary career. In 1904, Churchill made a significant and controversial decision to switch his allegiance from the Conservative Party to the Liberal Party. This move was largely motivated by differences in policy, especially over issues such as free trade and social reform. As a Liberal MP, he continued to rise in prominence. As a Liberal, Churchill advocated for various social reform measures, including labor rights, improved working conditions, and social welfare. He was a proponent of what was known as the People's Budget, which aimed to fund social programs through taxes on the wealthy. Winston Churchill held several government positions during his early political career, including Under-Secretary of State for the Colonies, 1905 to 1908, President of the Board of Trade, 1908 to 1910, and Home Secretary, 1910 to 1911. His tenure as Home Secretary saw him dealing with issues related to labor unrest and suffragette activism. During World War I, Churchill served as First Lord of the Admiralty, 1911 to 1915, and was responsible for the Royal Navy. His handling of the disastrous Gallipoli campaign led to his resignation from the government, but he remained in politics and continued to play a prominent role. After leaving the Liberal Party, Churchill rejoined the Conservative Party in 1924. He was appointed Chancellor of the Exchequer in the government of Stanley Baldwin. His economic policies included a return to the gold standard, which later became controversial. From the late 1920s to the late 1930s, Winston Churchill found himself in a period often referred to as the Wilderness Years. It was the period in his political career when he was out of government and did not hold a cabinet position. The term is usually associated with his time in political opposition, during which he was not part of the government. After his earlier government service and several ministerial positions, Churchill found himself out of the government following the political setbacks he experienced in the late 1920s and early 1930s. One of the defining features of Churchill's wilderness years was his vocal and persistent opposition to the policy of appeasement pursued by the British government, particularly under Prime Minister Neville Chamberlain. Churchill was highly critical of the policy of appeasement, which sought to avoid conflict with Nazi Germany through diplomatic concessions. He believed it was a dangerous and short-sighted approach to dealing with Adolf Hitler's expansionist ambitions. During this period, Winston Churchill repeatedly warned about the growing threat of Nazi Germany and the need for Britain to rearm in preparation for a potential conflict. His warnings, however, were often met with skepticism, and he faced political isolation due to his views. Although not in government, Churchill remained an active member of Parliament, MP, during his wilderness years. He used his platform in the House of Commons to speak out against appeasement, advocate for a stronger military, and express his concerns about the rise of Nazism. Winston Churchill was a prolific writer and speaker during this period. He authored several books and articles, including his 6-volume History of the First World War, and delivered numerous speeches in which he continued to articulate his views on foreign policy and the need for vigilance in the face of the Nazi threat. Churchill's opposition to appeasement and his warnings about Nazi Germany were often seen as hawkish and out of step with the political establishment. His views were not widely embraced until later, as the threat from Nazi Germany became more evident. The wilderness years came to an end when Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom in May 1940, during World War II. His steadfastness and determination during this difficult period, and his warnings about the Nazi threat, ultimately positioned him as the leader best suited to guide Britain through the war. Winston Churchill became Prime Minister of the United Kingdom during a critical period in World War II. His appointment as Prime Minister can be attributed to a combination of political developments and his own leadership qualities. Neville Chamberlain, who had served as Prime Minister during the early years of World War II, was under increasing pressure due to the lack of success in the war and the public's growing discontent with his leadership. The failed Norwegian campaign in April 1940 was a significant blow to his credibility. On May 9, 1940, Chamberlain announced his resignation as Prime Minister. With the situation in Europe deteriorating rapidly, there was a growing sense that the country needed a more resolute and forceful leader. The formation of a coalition government that would include key figures from various political parties was proposed, with the aim of providing strong and unified leadership during the war. Winston Churchill, who had been a prominent critic of the Chamberlain government's appeasement policies and a strong advocate for rearmament, was the natural choice to lead this coalition government. His reputation as a war hawk and his unwavering determination made him an appealing candidate. King George VI appointed Churchill as Prime Minister on May 10, 1940. Churchill assumed office at a perilous time. Nazi Germany had launched its blitzkrieg against Western Europe, and the British Expeditionary Force was facing the German advance in France and Belgium. The Dunkirk evacuation was initiated during this period. Churchill's appointment as Prime Minister marked a turning point in the war, as his leadership and determination helped boost the morale of the British people and forge a stronger, more unified response to the Nazi threat. Winston Churchill's leadership during World War II was marked by several key aspects that contributed to his effectiveness as a wartime leader. These aspects are often cited as defining features of his leadership during the war. Churchill was a masterful orator and used his speeches to inspire and rally the British people and the Allied nations. His powerful and eloquent rhetoric, often delivered with passion and conviction, boosted morale and resolve during the darkest days of the war. Churchill's unwavering determination to fight on in the face of adversity was a hallmark of his leadership. His famous "We shall fight on the beaches" speech exemplified this resolve to continue the fight against Nazi Germany, regardless of the challenges. Churchill demonstrated adaptability in the face of changing circumstances. He played a key role in shaping Allied strategy and was open to input from his military advisors. His strategic vision included the idea of the Mediterranean strategy to combat Axis forces and secure Allied access to the southern European theater. Churchill recognized the importance of forging strong alliances. He worked to build and maintain the Grand Alliance with the United States and the Soviet Union, forming a united front against the Axis powers. Unlike many political leaders, Churchill took a hands-on approach to military planning and operations. He actively engaged with military commanders and was known for his close involvement in military matters. Churchill understood the value of propaganda and information warfare. He supported initiatives such as the creation of the Special Operations Executive and the Political Warfare Executive to conduct covert and psychological warfare against the Axis powers. Churchill recognized the importance of technological innovation in warfare. He supported the development of new technologies, such as radar and code-breaking efforts at Bletchley Park, which were crucial to Allied success. Churchill made himself accessible to the public and was known for his visits to bombed cities and his interaction with civilians and military personnel. This accessibility endeared him to the people and boosted his popularity. Churchill trusted his military commanders and empowered them to make critical decisions. This trust helped to foster a sense of collaboration and confidence among his leadership team. Churchill advocated for adherence to international laws and norms even during the chaos of war. He was a proponent of the Geneva Conventions and the humane treatment of prisoners of war. Churchill's leadership during World War II was marked by his ability to inspire, his steadfast determination, and his skill in strategic thinking and alliance building. Winston Churchill's leadership during World War II saw the British and Allied forces involved in a series of major military campaigns across different theaters of the war. Some of the key military campaigns and operations that occurred under Churchill's leadership include the Battle of Britain, 1940. As Prime Minister, Churchill played a crucial role in the defense of Britain during the Battle of Britain. The Royal Air Force, RAF, successfully defended the UK against the German Luftwaffe's air attacks, preventing a German invasion. The North African Campaign, 1940–1943. Churchill was actively involved in the strategy and planning of the North African Campaign, particularly the Desert War. British forces, led by General Bernard Montgomery, pushed back Axis forces under Erwin Rommel in a series of battles, including the Second Battle of El Alamein, a turning point in the campaign. The Battle of the Atlantic, 1939–1945. Churchill recognized the importance of winning the Battle of the Atlantic, which involved the struggle for control of the sea lanes and the defeat of German U-boats. He supported measures to protect Allied shipping and ensure the flow of supplies to Britain. The Balkans Campaign, 1940–1941. Churchill approved the dispatch of British forces to Greece and later to Crete to assist Greek and Commonwealth troops against the Axis forces. The campaign ended in an Allied withdrawal and evacuation from Greece and Crete. The Arctic Convoys, 1941–1945. Churchill supported the Arctic convoys that delivered supplies to the Soviet Union via the treacherous northern route. These convoys played a crucial role in providing aid to the USSR on the Eastern Front. The Eastern Front, 1941–1945. Churchill was a strong advocate for the Allies opening a second front in Western Europe to relieve pressure on the Soviet Union. He worked with the Soviet leader Joseph Stalin and U.S. President Franklin D. Roosevelt to plan Operation Overlord, the D-Day landings in Normandy in 1944. The Mediterranean Campaign, 1940–1945. Churchill was a proponent of the Mediterranean strategy, which aimed to secure North Africa and Southern Europe. The campaign included operations in North Africa, Sicily, and Italy. The Pacific War and the Far East. While the main British focus was on Europe and North Africa, Churchill recognized the importance of the Pacific War. He cooperated with the United States in the Pacific Theater, which included British contributions to the campaigns in Burma, Singapore, and the Pacific Islands. The Normandy landings, D-Day, 1944. Churchill played a pivotal role in the planning and execution of Operation Overlord, the D-Day landings on the coast of Normandy. This operation marked the Allied invasion of Western Europe and played a major role in the liberation of France from German occupation. The closing campaigns, 1944 to 1945. Churchill was involved in the final campaigns that led to the defeat of Nazi Germany. These included the Battle of the Bulge, the liberation of Western Europe, and the push into Germany itself. Churchill's leadership during these military campaigns and operations was marked by his active involvement in strategy and his unwavering determination to defeat the Axis powers. His role in coordinating Allied efforts and maintaining morale made him a pivotal figure in the successful prosecution of the war. After World War II, Winston Churchill's political career continued, and he remained a prominent figure in British and international politics. In the general election held in July 1945, shortly after the end of World War II, Churchill's Conservative Party was defeated by the Labour Party, led by Clement Attlee. This marked the end of Churchill's first term as Prime Minister post-World War II. Churchill made a political comeback when the Conservative Party returned to power in the general election of 1951. He was again appointed as Prime Minister, serving his second term in this role. During his second term as Prime Minister, 1951 to 1955, Churchill had to contend with the challenges of the early Cold War. He maintained a strong relationship with the United States and was an early advocate for the concept of a special relationship between the two countries. Churchill's second term in office saw the outbreak of the Korean War in 1950. Britain provided military support to the United Nations during the conflict, and Churchill played a role in coordinating this effort. Churchill's second term as Prime Minister came to an end when he resigned in 1955. He was succeeded by Sir Anthony Eden as leader of the Conservative Party and Prime Minister. Post his resignation, Churchill remained a highly respected and influential figure, known for his role in World War II and his contributions to historical literature. After resigning as Prime Minister in 1955, Winston Churchill remained an active Member of Parliament, MP, for Woodford. However, he was no longer in a position of political leadership, and his active role in government had come to an end. In the years following his retirement from political office, Churchill's health began to deteriorate. He suffered a series of strokes, and his physical and mental capacities declined. During his final years, Churchill spent time with his family, including his wife, Clementine, and their children and grandchildren. He enjoyed his home at Chartwell in Kent, where he pursued hobbies such as painting, writing, and gardening. Churchill received numerous honors and awards in recognition of his contributions to Britain and the world. Notably, he was made a Knight of the Garter in 1953 and received the Nobel Prize in Literature in the same year. Churchill continued to write and publish during his final years. His 6-volume memoir, The Second World War, was published between 1948 and 1954. He also worked on his A History of the English-Speaking Peoples during this time. Although his public appearances became less frequent due to his declining health, Churchill occasionally made speeches and attended significant events. One notable occasion was his address to the U.S. Congress in 1952. Winston Churchill passed away on January 24, 1965, at the age of 90. His death marked the end of an era in British and world history, and it was widely mourned. He received a state funeral, and his body lay in state in Westminster Hall, London, before his funeral service at St. Paul's Cathedral. His legacy as one of the 20th century's most iconic and influential leaders continued to be celebrated and remembered long after his passing. Winston Churchill's legacy today is multifaceted and enduring, as he is remembered for his contributions to British and world history, particularly during World War II. Winston Churchill is perhaps best known for his resolute and inspirational leadership during World War II. His speeches and unwavering determination played a significant role in boosting the morale of the British people and rallying the Allied forces. He is widely regarded as one of the key figures in the victory over Nazi Germany. Churchill was a masterful orator and writer. His speeches, including the famous "We Shall Fight on the Beaches" address, are studied for their eloquence and their power to motivate. He is often cited as one of the greatest public speakers in history. In 1953, Winston Churchill was awarded the Nobel Prize in Literature for his historical writings and speeches, further cementing his reputation as a writer and historian. Churchill had a long and influential political career, serving in various government positions, including Prime Minister of the United Kingdom on 2 occasions. He made significant contributions to British politics, including social and economic reforms, and was known for his advocacy of the special relationship between the UK and the United States. Churchill was a staunch defender of democracy and individual liberties. His opposition to totalitarian regimes, particularly Nazi Germany, underscored his commitment to democratic values. Churchill's leadership during World War II is often associated with the idea of national and international unity in the face of adversity. His legacy represents the strength and determination of the British people during wartime. Churchill's iconic status extends beyond his home country. He is a figure of global historical significance, and his speeches and writings continue to inspire and resonate with people around the world. Churchill's legacy is also the subject of debate and controversy, as some aspects of his career, such as his early views on colonialism and race, have been criticized. This has led to discussions about his complex and sometimes contradictory legacy. Churchill's legacy is a subject of continued interest and study, with historians and scholars examining his life, leadership, and contributions from various angles. His enduring impact on the 20th century and the lessons to be drawn from his career continue to shape historical and political discourse.